Just 7 short months ago, the Chiefs were on the top of the world, chasing after a three-peat. Now, going into the 2025 season, they're 0-2, coming off that brutal Super Bowl loss against the Eagles, and the road ahead of them isn't getting any easier. Is the reign of terror finally over for the Chiefs, and did their magic finally dry up? Or am I just a salty Broncos fan who's way too excited to see the Chiefs are 0-2 for the first time since the invention of the quesarito? Can you believe they got rid of the quesarito? Anyway, Chiefs fans, as a Broncos fan, watching you guys succeed over the past years, I can't help but hope to see some cracks in this team. And now, I'm hoping to show you guys the same cracks that I'm seeing in this team. Now, let's set the stage. Let's go back to the start of the Chiefs' black magic. Their dynasty. Back in 2018, the Kansas City Chiefs weren't just winning, they were dominating. Patrick Mahomes stepped onto the stage in 2018 as a starter and won the MVP straight away, and instantly turned the Chiefs into one of the most feared offenses in all of football. For years, the defense didn't have an answer for Tyreek Hill stretching the field deep, and Travis Kelce carving up every coverage, and Andy Reid's play calling keeping the defense 2 steps behind. This wasn't just flashy highlights. The scoreboard told the story. During this stretch, Kansas City regularly blew teams out and buried them by halftime. From 2018 to 2020, it felt like Mahomes could score whenever he wanted to. If you were down 2 scores to the Kansas City, the game was basically over. In this stretch, they had appeared in the AFC Championship 5 straight years and made 3 straight Super Bowl appearances and won 2 Lombardi trophies in that span. The dynasty wasn't a question, it was a fact. Teams didn't just lose to the Chiefs, they looked outclassed. Now going into the 2020 season, they were coming off a disappointing playoff loss at home to Joe Burrow and the Bengals. And NFL fans were starting to get done with the dominance and the media coverage that the Chiefs continued to receive. But the Chiefs had earned this right and this tear they're going into the season. Then after spanking the Cardinals in the opener and winning a nail-biter in their home opener against the Chargers, they go on to drop 2 of the next 3 games against the Matt Ryan-led Colts and Josh Allen and the Bills. And the only other flaw coming at the hands of Burrow again in a Week 12 loss. The Chiefs sat pretty at 14-3, the best record in the AFC, giving them the first-round bye and the home field throughout the playoffs. If you just look at their 14-3 record, this might seem like a good team, but the vibe around them, it was different this year. It wasn't Andy Reid masterminding plays or Mahomes dominating defenses. Their gameplay had shifted from these deep shots and dazzling plays to just keeping games close and then having the ball at the end of the game. During the 2020 season, they were 9 one-possession games, winning 7 of them. But 5 of these one-score games were with teams that finished the season well below 500, and they lost 1 of these to the Colts, and then they got bailed out against the 1-win Texans and David Mills ghost fumbling an OT, resulting in the Chiefs winning 30-24. Nevertheless, the Kansas City Chiefs were the 1 seed, and they had the Jacksonville Jaguars coming in. Trevor Lawrence, in this game, he was doing everything he could, putting his body on the line, trying to get this Jacksonville team into a 1-possession game. And then first and goal, he finds running back Agnew, who has a ghost fumble for Casey to scoop it up. A late highlight reel pick was a nail in the coffin for this narrow escape. This led to Patrick Mahomes' father at the time, Joe Burrow, coming to town, as he proved in the playoffs that he could beat them on the road. If you don't remember this exact game, this is the one that I point to that changed the Chiefs from being a team that was a nice change from Tom Brady and the Patriots to becoming the exact same thing. From all the ticky-tack fouls and the luck that doesn't seem to run out. In this game, the Chiefs were gifted redos on 3rd down, timely penalties, and the nail in the coffin for the Bengals was a late hit while Patrick Mahomes was running up the sideline, which looks an awful lot similar to this highlight that they posted from Patrick Mahomes in Week 1 against the Chargers. But instead of this being a highlight, it ended up being a 15-yard penalty, which allowed Butker to nail a 45-yard field goal and them to advance on to play the Eagles in Super Bowl 57. This game left a horrible taste in Bengals fans, Chief haters like myself, and NFL fans. But the Super Bowl would be different, right? In this Super Bowl, the Eagles and Chiefs exchanged blows in the first quarter of the Super Bowl, but Philly was leading early in the second, 14-7, and stopped the Chiefs and began marching until Jalen Hurts, for once again, has a ghost fumble right to the Chiefs players, who scoop and walk it in for a completely uncontested touchdown. After this gift, the Eagles went back to domination and ran the score up to 24-14. The Eagles were only able to put up field goals between the Chiefs' touchdown drives, making the score 28-17. The Chiefs forced the Eagles to punt on the next drive to Kadarius Toney, who makes the play of a career, returning this punt from the left sideline all the way to the right and up the sideline to the 4-yard line before they were able to tackle him. This second gift from the Eagles positioned them on the 4-yard line where they're easily able to score from, making it 35-27. And the last gift from the Eagles was a late soft pass interference call, which proved to be the nail in the coffins, as the Chiefs would go up 3 with 8 seconds remaining. Both of these games to America just felt bad. It felt like the Chiefs had been gifted a Super Bowl from the refs and lucky breaks just to get to the Super Bowl and then to win it. By the 2023 season, we start to see the Chiefs' play get worse, but their luck increase. The view of the Chiefs had not improved, as many celebrated their Week 1 loss to the Lions. This season, they found themselves in 9 one-possession games once again, but this year, only winning 5 of them. As you can see, they still aren't blowing out the bad teams. But despite dropping a few divisional games late in the season to the Raiders and the Chargers, they still get into the playoffs at 11-6 and the 3rd seed in the AFC. This gets them a wild card game against Miami in KC. This seemed like a hot Miami team going into this game, but a frosty night in KC froze the Miami offense, and this allowed them to advance on to play Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. But a late missed field goal allowed the Chiefs to move on to Baltimore. And despite the Chiefs leading at half 17-7, and Lamar Jackson leading 2 drives totaling 137 yards in the second half, but totaled to 0 points, they could have easily cashed these in for 2 touchdowns. A poor time to extend the ball by Zay Flowers getting the ball knocked out of his hands turned this into 0 points. And then with the game on the line, Lamar tossed into triple coverage, watching Isaiah Likely getting plastered with the ball in the air. Since the Chiefs did it, it was no call, and the Chiefs had found another way to get back to the big game, even if Patrick had only put up 17 points in this victory. In the Super Bowl, the Niners looked prepared, and they kept the Chiefs off the scoreboard until Harrison Butker chipped in a 28-yarder to answer the 49ers' first 10 points they put up. Harrison Butker again was able to drill in a 57-yarder late in the third to bring them within 4. The Niners still had control of this game, until a punt came down short and the ball bounced off a 49ers foot, giving the Chiefs the ball on the 16, and they were able to convert the Chiefs' only touchdown in regulation of that night. This, though, would cause the 49ers to lock in, pretty to Jawan Jennings to take the lead in the 4th, and the Chiefs take a field goal on the next drive, and they get the field goal of their own, and then the Chiefs get in the red zone and kick a field goal with 3 seconds left to force the game into overtime. The Chiefs go on to put on together their only good drive and win the game, but they should have never had the chance for this drive, as it was a gift, as was the back-to-back Super Bowl victories that were handed to the Chiefs. To NFL fans, not Swifties, they were getting tired of seeing this week in and week out, but there's no way the public perception could possibly get worse in 2024, right? This highlights one of the luckiest Chiefs years by far, and I would go as far to say it's maybe one of the luckiest seasons ever. The difference in this season was in one-possession games, as in 2022, they won 7 of 9, which is a bit lucky. And then, in 2023, they win 6 of their 9 one-possession games, which is slightly above average. But in 2024, the Chiefs win an unbelievable 12 for 12 in one-possession games. But what made this so frustrating is it wasn't Patrick Mahomes having a game-winning drive every week. These 12 games included victories like Isaiah Likely having a bit too large of a shoe, a dubious pass interference call, the Falcons choking in the red zone, and the Chargers coming up short, and this was all just to start off 4-0. They continued to pull off games like this, like they did against the Denver Broncos, blocking a game-winning chip shot field goal, which I definitely didn't cry after, along with another contactless fumble with the Raiders and a doinked field goal in against the Chargers. This might be the worst 15-2 team you've ever seen. And so when I was talking to a Chiefs fan, he jokingly said that he just turns the games on in the 4th quarter and he'd see the Chiefs win. It might be a joke, but it really wasn't that far from the truth. And then we got to the postseason, and they were the 1 seed again, and everyone's fears were becoming a reality. The Texans looked like a shell of the team in the regular season, or the team that had played the Chargers the week before. Nevertheless, the Chiefs were on to the Bills, and this is when I started to panic. As in this game, a team that underperformed all year started to look like they had figured it out. I mean, the offense was moving the ball against what was a good defense all year, and their defense was making key stops. a few spotty calls later, and Mahomes would beat Josh Allen in the playoffs again. And everyone had started to believe it was going to happen again. And then the Super Bowl happened. And I remember watching this as a Chiefs fan, and it was so satisfying. It seemed like every game they had won on some BS had finally caught up. The tides had finally switched back to the other directions, and for 4 long, unsolicited quarters, the Eagles did what they wanted to the Chiefs. And I do think that the Eagles are easily a top 3 team in the NFL currently, but the reason this game looks so lopsided is the Chiefs didn't get bailed out. No key special team mistakes, no ghost fumbles, and no dropping interceptions. It felt like you just got to watch the Chiefs get exposed for all the luck they had over these past 2 years and these past 2 Super Bowl victories. This almost historic three-peat would have been highlighted by the luckiest of ghost fumbles, shanked punts, and short fields. After this humiliating loss, the 2025 offseason was not kind to the Chiefs, as they lost Joe Thundy, a big part of their offensive line, to the Bears, and Rasheed Rice to a 6-game suspension, along with key players like Justin Reed, DeAndre Hopkins, Derek Nottie, and Samaje Perine. The only true star gone is Joe Thundy, and they are missing the depth currently at wide receiver 1, but Rasheed Rice will be back, and his productivity will probably be up. Despite this offseason loss, they still had a lot of hype around them coming into Week 1. Just for Herbert and the Chargers to outlast them in Brazil to get the W over the Chiefs Week 1. And Week 2, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs walk into a buzzsaw playing the Eagles as they got chopped again in a one-possession game, starting them off this season 0-2 in one-possession games. I do love to hate on the Chiefs, but they did have a brutal start to the season. So now, let's take a look ahead of the rest of the season to see what they have to deal with. This Sunday, they have the New York Giants, which are also an impressive 0-2 team, as they've looked good in both of their losses, holding a close game with 2 teams that have looked good. But I think this game should get the Chiefs in the win column, but don't be surprised if it's closer than you think. And then, in the next 3 weeks, they go on to play the Ravens and the Lions, and they could easily drop these 2 games to them. With a win over the Jaguars, they'd be sitting at 2-5, and this would drop their percentage of getting to the playoffs to 6-1, with only 10 teams being able to do that since 1990. And then, before they can even get to Week 10, they still have to face off against the Commanders, the Bills, and the Broncos. So when they get to Week 10, best case scenario, they could be looking at a 6-4 record, which gets them back into the playoff race. But realistically, I see them sitting at 4-6, and this is a record that no team has ever made it to the playoffs with. Now after Week 10, they still have to play the whole division again, along with the currently hot Colts, and a definitely not their year, but good Cowboys, and a late season rookie Cam Ward, who might be turning a corner or having a career day. I'm not trying to sound the alarm bell and say that they aren't going to make the playoffs this year, as they still have a very easy route to them, but they can only maybe drop 3 or 4 more games and still make it into the playoffs easily. But I don't believe it'll be that easy, because there's a few stats that I want to point out. And the first one that's really hard to ignore is that since 2022, including the first 2 weeks of this season, they have been in 32 games that have been decided by 1 score or less. That's way too many games for a team that's supposed to be one of the league's dynasty. Out of those games, they've won 25 and only lost 7. On the surface, that sounds impressive, but here's why it's concerning, because 13 of those opponents ended up finishing under 500. The Chiefs aren't blowing out the average or bad teams anymore. They're barely scraping by when they're supposed to be one of the best teams in the NFL. Those should be easy wins, not nail-biters. And this pattern shows that Kansas City has been living on the edge for a while, and Mahomes and Reeds can still pull off late-game magic, but the margin for error is shrinking every year. Instead of dominating like they once did, they're surviving. And one of the people that went from dominating to surviving was supposedly football Jesus, Patrick Mahomes. His best statistical year, he boasted a 9.1 air yards per attempt as a rookie starter. He followed it up with 8.8 in 2019. That's elite deep ball throwing and accuracy. Fast forward to 2024, and he's down to 6.2 yards attempt, the lowest mark of his career. The explosive plays are drying up, and that's not just because of Tyreek Hill's absence. His accuracy is also down, as Mahomes was hitting on around 77 to 80% on on-target throws. In 2024, that slipped to 76, and this year, through 2 games, it's at 67%. By far the worst of his career. Plus, his bad throw rate is skyrocketing. 13% in 2023, 15 in 2024, and now in 2025, it's over 20%. That's not Mahomes magic. That's Mahomes forcing it. Part of the reason is there's pressure. The offseason loss of Joe Thundy, he's already at 21% in 2025. He's running for his life way more often, and unlike before, it's not resulting in highlights. It's stalling drives. In 2020, he scrambled for over 1,000 yards. 2024, it dropped to 818. This year, 22 through 2 games. He's not bailing out the offense like he used to. And I'm not the only one seeing this, as you can see this in the awards, as he went from winning the MVP in 2018 and 2019 to MVP 7 in 2023 and MVP 6 in 2024. Who knows where he's headed this year? But it's hopefully not as far down as his favorite target, Travis Kelce, as this was once an unstoppable white boy in 2020, as he put up 1,400 yards with 105 catches. That's wide receiver numbers from a tight end. He followed it up with 1,300 yards in 2020 and 13 touchdowns. He was the ultimate safety blanket for Mahomes. But since then, the numbers keep sliding. In 2023, he dipped below 1,000 yards for the first time since 2015, finishing with 984 and just 4 touchdowns. In 2024, he fell even harder to 823 yards and only 3 scores against a full 16-game season. The efficiency tells the story too. Back in 2018 to 2020, Kelce was averaging 8 to 10 yards after the catch. In 2024, just 3.5. This means he's not breaking tackles or creating separation like he used to. Defenses are just catching up to him way faster, from averaging 110 to 120 yards per game at his peak, now down to 83 yards in 2024. And through 2 games to start this year, he only has 108 yards. Even the red zone dominance is gone. In 2022, he had 13 touchdowns. In the last 2 seasons combined, only 6. For a guy who's considered one of the biggest mismatches in football, that's a massive drop. So just like Mahomes, Kelce hasn't completely fallen off. But his numbers aren't improving. Less separation, less yards after the catch, less touchdowns, and far less consistency. On offense, this used to be one of the most feared units in football. In 2020, they averaged 29.6 points per game. In 2020, they were the number 1 in the entire league with 29.2 points per game. That's Super Bowl winning firepower. But since then, in 2023, they dropped to 21.8 points a game, ranking 15th in the league. In 2024, the same story, 22.6. That's still middle of the pack, and a massive fall from being the NFL's most explosive offensive just 2 years before. So yeah, Mahomes is regressing and Kelce is slowing down, but the offense as a whole is just not elite anymore. Now, on the defensive side, it's almost the opposite story. Back in 2022 and 2021, this defense was good, but not great, giving up about 21 or 22 points a game, which put them in the middle of the pack. But by 2023, this group had turned into an elite group, holding teams to just 17.3 points a game, the second best in the league. And in 2024, they were still top 5, only giving up 19.2 points a game. This defense is literally the only thing keeping this dynasty alive while the offense falls apart. They have gone a far way from being the Chiefs of Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce to being the Chiefs who need their defense to win. Thank you so much for listening. If you think I'm just a salty Broncos fan, just go in the comments and I'll feel more than happy to go and argue with you down there. Or if you think I missed anything or glossed over anything that you want to talk about, just drop it down below, along with any subscriptions or likes. Those would go a long way. But if not, your time is greatly appreciated, and I'll catch you next time.